Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today I'll be finishing off the year 2020 with my last film review of 2020 for a film that technically started to come out in 2019, but got its official theatrical release in 2020. It's a film I just got to see today, and it is a film called The Gentleman, which is yet another film from Guy Ritchie. If you've seen Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and other films like that, you kind of know the tone that he tends to go for in most of his films, especially the ones that are more gangster-oriented. And I will say that for this review, I have almost entirely positive things to say about this movie. But before I dive into that, please be sure to smash that like button, smash the rumble button. I don't know what I just said. Smash the rumble button if you're watching over there, and also make sure you hit subscribe and the bell notification. But as I said, this is a film by Guy Ritchie, and it is fantastic. So just kind of give a bit of an overview. The Gentleman is a 2019 British-American action comedy film written, directed, and produced by Guy Ritchie from a story by Ivan Atkinson, Marn Davies, and Ritchie himself. The film stars Matthew McConaughey, all right, Charlie Hunnam, Henry Golding, Michelle Dockery, Jeremy Strong, Eddie Marsan, Colin Farrell, and Hugh Grant. It follows an American marijuana kingpin in England who is looking to sell his business, setting off a chain of blackmail and schemes to undermine him. And I will say, first off, that based on that alone, seriously, the cast for this film is absolutely phenomenal. I loved every single performance in this film. I thought all of the actors gave some of the best, some of the strongest performances of their career. Obviously, Matthew McConaughey was lightning in a bottle like he normally is. Charlie Hunnam was really cool to see him in this film doing the role that he was. I thought he was fantastic as well. Michelle Dockery was there, is very much a supporting character. Some people might recognize her from Downton Abbey and other things like that. Colin Farrell makes a more supported role appearance here, playing an Irish guy that is in charge of a gym, essentially trying to train kids to essentially leave behind, lives of squalor and lives of crime to kind of, change their lives and have a new start. And then you have Hugh Grant. And I'm going to say right now that Hugh Grant makes this movie. Hugh Grant is the star of this film, and I loved every single thing that Hugh Grant did on screen. And it's one of these things where Hugh Grant, some people may like him, some people may not, but this is the most unique role that I've ever seen from him. He does this amazing accent and this amazing performance that is unlike anything I've ever seen from him before, to the point where I honestly think that if this was an honest year, if this was, if the Academy Awards and all the award shows were honest in general, he would be nominated for Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, whatever it is you want to say. I mean, he kind of has a leading role in this film as he's featured in the vast majority of the film and kind of narrates it into some aspects, because that's kind of the way in which the story is told. Is that he comes in and says, look, I've got a script for a new play, for a new movie, and it turns out where he's just basically going through all of the different scenes throughout the film and all of the different sequences that actually happen in real life, but he tells it in the very beginning as if it was going through a screenplay, which I thought was very clever. It was very clever writing, and Hugh Grant really does, I think, make that role and make that performance as good as it actually is in the process. So the acting in this film is superb, and I would say this film is worth watching just for Hugh Grant's performance alone, and that is not even just the only thing it's worth watching for, because I think the script and the story are absolutely fantastic. I am someone where I've never been a huge fan of the Guy Ritchie films, mostly because they're so difficult to understand, because every single one of his actors do great authentic, because they're mostly all British accents, many of which are more poor areas, like maybe like a Cockney or something like that, where it's again very grungy and hard to understand, but it makes it hard to understand, and because it's very authentic, and because it's so, oftentimes very quick-paced, you have a lot of dialogue in a short period of time. In addition to the accents, it's sometimes hard to follow his stories. It's sometimes hard to follow what's going on. This film, I think, was probably one of the easiest films for me to follow. And I think a big part of that was the fact that one of the lead actors, Matthew McConaughey, plays an American. And so you don't have to worry about the accent as much when he is on screen. And I honestly feel like it had an impact, or at least maybe it had an impact on my ears, being more ready for these various things, to be able to pick up the dialogue much more easily. There was really only one point, basically at the very end of the movie, where I had to turn the subtitles on to understand what was going on, because it's just this throwaway line that's said in a way by Matthew McConaughey, the American, that was kind of hard to understand overall. But seriously, the story of this film is absolutely fantastic. Again, as it says, American marijuana kingpin is trying to basically get rich off of his operation that he has set up over a period of many, many years. But it really does just tell the story of all these different background characters. Charlie Hunnam plays a major part as being essentially the protection, the muscle for Matthew McConaughey's character. And then Jeremy Strong plays an incredible performance here, basically as a guy trying to buy off Matthew McConaughey's, and basically you find out more about his character. And the twists and turns of the story, I think, are really accented by the tremendous and terrific performances throughout the entire film as well. This is a movie that a lot of people, I remember throughout the year, have been saying, hey, have you seen this film? Hey, have you seen this film? Hey, I recommend it. And the whole time I was kind of putting it off because I'm like, I like Guy Ritchie, but most of the time, I know, River, I know. It's upsetting to me, too, that it took me this long to watch this movie. But again, it's because I'm oftentimes so confused by his films because it is much more difficult to understand through that entire process. But I will say this is definitely the easier of his films to understand. And again, it might have to do with the fact that it actually features an American in this movie. But as you can see, you also have cinematography by Alan Stewart. I will say this much, that the cinematography and editing team, so there you have the editors James Herbert and Paul Matchless, both of them working together with the cinematographer and the director Guy Ritchie. I thought that this was an incredibly well-paced movie as well. Every scene really flows into the next. You have these really interesting quick cuts, and that's kind of something that's very iconic when it comes to the Guy Ritchie films. You may recognize some of these things for instance, if you've ever watched the Sherlock Holmes movies, he's also known for doing those as well, though I imagine that his hands, Guy Ritchie's hands, probably are more tied in those movies because he has, obviously it's a pretty big franchise for what it is. Again, it's making a lot of money. They're trying to get a lot of people in there, but he's able to bring a lot of the actors that he works with into those films too, but he's able to keep that style with a very kind of quick editing, good storytelling, visual storytelling. It's amazing how, as good as his scripts often are, where they, again, are just very authentic and they feel very real and they just flow very well, I think that his work with his editing team as well, as in addition to the cinematographers that he works with, is able to really kind of tell a story there too. It's always good when you have, because sometimes you have films that are stories that are being told through just visuals. I think that Zack Snyder, for instance, is a visual film director. Some people like that, some people don't like that. And you have other directors too, like a James Cameron, who's also a visual director, right? It's more of a visual story than it is an actual narrative story, which is why sometimes the films aren't very good if you just pay attention to the story, because they tend to not be nearly as original, because it's mostly just all about the visuals. What's great specifically about Guy Ritchie is that he tells both a compelling story and is able to, through editing and cinematography, tell a very compelling story that keeps you intrigued and interested in the movie the entire time. I felt myself very much invested in all of the characters, invested in the story, and also not really understanding, or rather not knowing exactly where the story was going to go, especially since it has one of these beginnings that kind of starts with the end, you think, and then there's different twists and turns that happen throughout the film. I don't want to go into too much because this is a film I actually don't really want to go into spoilers for, because I honestly think it is so much more enjoyable when you're just going along with the ride. And I think it's a very solid screenplay, once again, by Guy Ritchie. Great direction. Again, great cast, music, cinematography, editing, all of the points. Again, it has every single one of those objective elements really going well for it. Is this a movie that everyone's going to be able to enjoy necessarily, subjectively? Probably not, because it is sometimes hard to understand the dialogue, because you do still have a lot of these very rich English accents that can sometimes be difficult, at least for American ears, to understand. But I definitely do think that this is one where you'll understand the vast majority of it, and it's not going to be because of mixing, where that's a problem like you have in Christopher Nolan movies, but more so just because sometimes the accents are hard to follow. But it's, again, I think a lot easier to understand than some of his other films, like Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels and other films like that. In fact, if you want to kind of have an idea of the different films that he has done in his life, let me try and see if I can get a list of his filmography, as oftentimes you're able to do on here. So yeah, as you see, Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels is the one he's probably most well known for, back in '98. Very difficult to understand. Also Snatch, again, very difficult to understand as well. He's also done Rock and Rolla, Sherlock Holmes, both of the Sherlock Holmes movies. He did Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I actually thought was a pretty good adaptation. You also have Henry Cavill featured in that movie too. I thought that was pretty good. Never got to see King Arthur Legend of the Sword. I don't know if I heard any really great things about that. I want to say it was more mixed there. For some reason, he did Aladdin, though as I said before, I honestly think that that was a movie that had a lot more Disney influence than Guy Ritchie influence, especially when you look at the films he tends to make. make, which tend to have a lot of cursing. And I just want to give that warning. This is very much an R-rated movie, as a lot of his like passion projects tend to be. You know, if you go back to Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, they're always hard R's because of just the vast amount of language used. But that's something I love about him too. He's not PC. He's not afraid to say certain things. In fact, there's a couple times in the movie where you have it where someone says something and one of the characters says, "Wait, you're not supposed to be able to say that," and the guy's just like, you know, tough cookies. Obviously, he doesn't say tough cookies, but he uses that kind of real language that people would use in this type of environment in a very effective way. Again, I tend to not like those kinds of movies because I feel like you add cursing just because you feel like you can. It's different, I feel like, with Guy Ritchie films because it just comes across as being more authentic, and you honestly believe that it has to be written in the way that it is in order for the story to work the way that it does. But I just wanted to give that just a little bit of a warning that if you have children or if you have any youngins that you don't want to be hearing these kind of languages, do not watch this film with them in the background because it will not be good for them. But anyway, it's a fantastic film, fantastic script, editing, all of those things, all those check marks. And for me, it was also a very enjoyable experience as well. This is probably going to be one of my top films of 2020. I plan to try sometime in the new year to develop a top movies of 2020. Right now, Mank is up there as my favorite. But to be honest, I'm honestly going to have a honest discussion about whether that or The Gentleman is going to be my favorite film, because both of them are great for very different reasons. But I think both of them are easily worth watching, and I can easily recommend it. I'm going to give this film a solid A. I tend not to give out too many of those grades, especially for more modern releases, but I honestly thought that the script was just that strong and the story was that much fun that I feel like if you enjoy that type of more adult comedy where, again, it has more of the cursing and it has more of like the dry wit humor, I think that overall you will probably enjoy this film too. It's not a laugh out loud comedy, but it's one of those things where you're just enjoying the sequences that you're seeing and enjoying the scenes that you see on screen as well. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Have you ever seen The Gentleman? Let me know your thoughts about the film in the comment section below. If you like this video, please be sure to smash the like button, smash the rumble button as well if you're watching over there, and also make sure to hit subscribe, bell notification, all that good stuff. And of course, check out links in the description of the videos to find out ways that you can help support the channel. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all had a wonderful 2020, as crappy as it was. There were definitely some bright spots. Again, the birth of baby Thor was absolutely the brightest spot of all, and so 2020 will always be great for that one reason alone. But obviously, a lot of us have gone through various struggles. The good thing is that there have been, at least from a movie perspective, some really solid films to come out this year, and I would say The Gentleman can absolutely be added into that discussion as being one of the best and strongest films to come out this year. And again, something that you might want to check out if you have the chance to. I know it was on sale not too long ago on 4K for like $10 or so. And I would say if you can pick it up between $10 and $15 or even $20, I think it would actually be worth the time to pick up. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful new year. Please be safe as well. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my December Patreon and Subscribe Star members, starting off with Patreon Albertus Magnus, Andrew Hoyle, Animation Commentator Brian P., Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, The Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Laura Story, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Outpost Dyer, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Miss Martin Muses, also known as Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bogend, Tina B, and the Modern Major General, Laura Story. Gotta give you that shout out for that one time that you were doubled up. Thank you very much for being my Patreon members. And now a huge shout out to all of my December Subscribe Star members we have over there with Stand For, Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadon G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you all so much for being my Patreon and Subscribestar members. If you want your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream on the main channel, please consider joining over on those platforms. You can also get access to things like exclusive giveaways of 4Ks, Blu-rays. If you want a DVD, I guess you could also get a DVD as well, digital codes, and of course, you get to possibly join me on the channel once a month for the Chosen of Valhalla live stream and access to an exclusive podcast featuring John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where we have a lot of fun talking about movies and tons of other random things. Anyway, if you want to support these things, check out the links in the description of this video. And also, please consider joining my other channel, the OMB Report, where I talk about not just movies like I do over here, but I focus more so on politics, news, and culture in that order. You guys are all amazing. Thank you for your love and support. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.